Sudanese Armed Forces Commander General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and his allies seized control of the government on October 25, 2021. Burhan usurped the authority of a civilian-led transitional government formed in 2019 following a popular revolution that brought the 30-year regime of President Omar al-Bashir to an end. The 2021 takeover not only removed Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok from his position and sent him into house arrest but resulted in the detention of several senior officials, the dissolution of the cabinet, and the declaration of a state of emergency. Burhan suspended implementation of articles of the country's Provisional Constitutional Declaration, adopted in August 2019, and instituted a military-controlled Sovereign Council to oversee governmental functions. The Sovereign Council comprises Burhan, Rapid Support Forces Commander Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, also known as Hemedti, 3 other general officers, and 3 signatories to the Juba Peace Agreement. The agreement was ratified in October 2020 to give new impetus to wide-ranging goals, including with respect to security, governance and transitional justice, and the appointment of signatories to senior government positions. Until October 2021, the Ministry of Interior held the primary responsibility for internal security. The Ministry of Interior had oversight of police agencies, the Ministry of Defense, and the General Intelligence Service. Ministry of Interior police agencies include the Security Police, Special Forces Police, Traffic Police, and the combat-trained Central Reserve Police. Various elements of these police units were present throughout the country. The Ministry of Defense has a mandate to oversee all elements of the security services, including the Sudanese Armed Forces, Rapid Support Forces, Border Guards, and Defense and Military Intelligence Units. These forces are also charged with protecting sensitive government buildings and sites. On July 3, the first cohort of 2,000 soldiers of the Joint Security Keeping Force graduated from Sudanese Armed Forces organized training with a mandate to protect civilians in Darfur, consistent with the Juba Peace Agreement. As of year's end, the Joint Security Keeping Force had not been deployed. Throughout the year, law enforcement officers, technology, and infrastructure remained largely under military authority. There were credible reports members of the security forces committed numerous serious abuses. Civilian protesters continued demonstrating during the year against the military takeover, demanding full civilian rule. Security forces responded to some of these demonstrations with violence. The state of emergency continued until May 29, as did the temporary decree that gave expanded arrest authority to the General Intelligence Services, Sudanese Armed Forces, Rapid Support Forces, and Police Forces. These organizations retained the prerogative to conduct searches and seizures of contraband, to freeze financial assets, and to restrict the movement of individuals. These security forces also received immunity from prosecution for such actions performed during the state of emergency. General Burhan's lifting of the state of emergency coincided with the release of more than 70 political detainees. Government authority remained with the Sovereign Council headed by General Burhan and dominated by military members. The civilian members of the Sovereign Council named by Burhan in November 2021 were dismissed on July 4. Significant human rights issues included credible reports of unlawful or arbitrary killings, cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment by the government, harsh and life-threatening prison conditions, arbitrary arrest or detention, political prisoners or detainees, arbitrary or unlawful interference with privacy, serious abuses in a conflict, including killings, abductions, physical abuse or punishment, and unlawful recruitment or use of child soldiers. Serious restrictions on free expression and media, including threats of violence and acts of violence against journalists, censorship, and enforcement of criminal libel and slander laws, serious restrictions on internet freedom, substantial interference with the freedom of association, including overly restrictive laws on the organization, funding, or operation of non-governmental and civil society organizations, serious government corruption, lack of investigation of and accountability for gender-based violence, including domestic and intimate partner violence, sexual violence, child, early and forced marriage, female genital mutilation cutting, and conflict-related sexual violence. Laws criminalizing lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or intersex persons, and existence of the worst forms of child labor. The military authorities reported establishing special committees to identify, investigate, prosecute, and punish officials who committed human rights abuses. However, by year's end, no officials had been held responsible by the special committees for abuses committed. As of year's end, the investigation Investigative Committee into the June 2019 violent dispersal of a peaceful sit-in had not publicly submitted its findings, and investigations into members of the deposed Bashir regime for alleged human rights abuses had ceased. Following the military takeover in October 2021, the Sovereign Council did not publicly hold anyone accountable for abuses and disbanded the committee aimed at identifying and reclaiming or confiscating assets that corrupt officials in the Bashir government had stolen. In Darfur and the two areas, paramilitary forces and rebel groups reportedly continued sporadically to commit killings, rape, and other physical abuses and mistreatment of civilians. Local militias maintained substantial influence due to lack of deployment of the Joint Security Keeping Force and widespread impunity. Intercommunal violence originating from land tenure disputes and resource scarcity continued to result in civilian deaths, particularly in East, South, and North Darfur, as well as Blue Nile State. There were also human rights abuses reported in Abyei, a region that Sudan and South Sudan both claimed. These abuses generally stemmed from local clashes regarding cattle and land between the Ngok Dinka and Maasai indigenous groups. Reports were difficult to verify due to access challenges. Weak rule of law persisted in Darfur,